Hi there. Welcome to another chapter in Minor Miracles. Um, I'm going to try to do these kind of in chronological order. Best my memory can remember all this stuff. I'll tell you for sure what I do know. And this is way back when I was pretty young. I'm 58 years old right now. And when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, uh, I went to church. I went to church because I was told to go to church. I went to school during the week because I was told to go to school. It was something I was supposed to do. Uh, my mother would get me, get my clothes and everything, and get ready and go down to church on Sunday. And my daddy, he's a hard-working man. He worked some long hours. I just remember every morning I'd get up during the week and I'd see him in the morning when uh, my mom would wake me up in the morning, and about 6 o'clock in the morning because that's when he'd leave, and I get to wave to him as he drove off in the car. And I go back to sleep for about an hour and a half and then get up around 7:30 and get ready to go to school. Go to school, the end of the day, my dad would come home and we get to maybe eat supper together. And by then, it was about time for me to go to bed again. So didn't get to see a lot of him during the week. But during the weekend, Saturday, that was my day for Dad and I to do things together. My dad loved me a whole lot. He's always bragging on me. He'd tell me things. He taught me things. He told me always stick to your word. Your handshake is your bond. Your word. Always stick to your word. Never give your word unless you're going to stick to it. And uh, like I said, on Sundays I went to church, but Dad didn't go to church. He'd take me and Mama to church and drop us off, and then go home, watch football or read newspaper, things like that. And he'd come pick us up after church, and that was just what happened. I never questioned it or anything. And I was supposed to learn my Bible verse every Sunday, and it was kind of a ritual. But there were nice kids at church, and seemed to be a nice place to go. And but it was just a ritual. It was just as important as just going to school. Just something you did because good boys went to church and bad boys didn't go to church. Well, by the time I was 8 years old, my dad, like I mentioned, he worked very hard. And I remember him going out and putting a bunch of wood preserver on a building in the backyard. So you could smell it so bad you couldn't even open the back door of the house, and that was a detached garage he was painting. And apparently this did something to him. It made him very ill. It gave him something similar to multiple sclerosis, where you just slowly waste away. You're just called a wasting away the brain and spinal cord, to where you we get weaker and weaker. Pretty soon you can't walk, you can't talk very well, you shake, uh, your motor functions are starting to go out on you. But he got this when I was 8 years old, and over the next few years, Daddy finally he used to be foreman of the shop, and he had to quit the work there. And but I'd always heard great things about my dad. Everybody praised him. Mr. Galyon's word is his bond. His handshake is like gold. There's no contract needed. If he says it's going to be done, it'll be done. And I always heard a whole lot. My daddy told me he loved me all the time, and I had a lot of people that tell me how much my dad loved me, and how much he was proud of me all the time. And pride was a pretty big thing. My dad had a lot of it. He was a very respected man, and I was proud of my dad, and he was proud of me. Well, over the next few years, though, by the time I was about 10 or 11, like I said, he couldn't work anymore, and he was using a walker to get around. He could still drive, but he had to use a walker to go places, and kind of moves along kind of slow. And it's kind of breaks your pride, that way, to be from the He-Man, take care of yourself, take care of your family, to get to a point that, suddenly you're being taken care of. And I remember somewhere a couple of years into this, maybe when I was about 10 or 11 years old, my daddy, he had a couple of books he started reading. One was a Bible, and one was a little study guide about the Bible. And he started reading these things. And, there were two, it's kind of funny. I tell people there's two things that were never talked about in our house: sex and religion. Sex was never mentioned. I guess I must have been 15 before I figured out the stork didn't bring me. Uh, and the other part was just religion. It was like a real personal thing you just didn't quite talk about. And I'm sure Daddy believed in God, but just God. Okay, now move on. But I was like I said, I was taken to church, and I learned my verses and things like that. But it was just a memorization thing, just like remembering something in school. Well, Daddy, as like I said, he got worse. He had these two books. He started reading them more and more. For a couple of years, I noticed he'd always have them out, and looking through them and making notations in them and folding this corner down and stuff. But we never really talked much, except what father and son usually talk about. Previous to him getting sick, we used to go hunting together. Yeah, 8 years old, I was carrying a shotgun, going hunting with my dad. But he taught me well. But he taught me to have a lot of pride, and keeping my word, and that's what he had. He had a lot of pride. Now I like to kind of jump over to something here in the Bible. The Bible talks in the story about the devil. He used to actually be one of the angels in heaven, and he got to thinking he was so good. He got a lot of pride, and God said, you're not better than me." Kicked him out. Well, pride's not a good thing to have a whole excess of. It's good to be proud of doing something good, but when you start taking pride in yourself to such a degree that you think you need nothing else, then that's a bad thing. And I think that was kind of the way my dad was. He was a self-made man, take care of himself, didn't need nobody else helping him. Thing is, though, by the time I was about 11 years old, he did need people helping him. He had to be brought his food to him. He had to be helped to get out of that chair. And, I'll be straight with you right now. When you get up and you have to go to the bathroom and you cannot make it to the bathroom in time before you wet yourself, that is a pride breaker. Standing in the middle of the room, not being able to get to the bathroom. And Daddy was in that position. Now I love my daddy with all my heart, And so about a year before he passed on, went to be with Jesus. And yes, I'll tell you why I believe that. He said one day, he said, "We're going to church." Now, Daddy, I think maybe went to church half a dozen times in his life, maybe on Christmas or Easter or something like that, took us. But he said, "We're going to church." And it was one of these things, it's like if Daddy had said, "We're going to the moon," I'd said, "Yes, sir." Sir would follow the yes very quickly in our household. And I would be ready to get on the rocket ship or whatever means he said we were going to go there, because whatever Daddy said was what we did. But he wasn't a mean father. He set a set of rules. But I knew that I could believe what he said. I knew I could trust what he said absolutely. He was a very good father, and he loved me a lot. Well, that day he said, "We're going to church." And it's like I said, about a year before he died. And he'd been studying up on the Bible, and must have been something in there he read that kind of spoke to him and said, I need to go and make a decision here of, I'm not the most perfect person in the world. And because of that, I'm sinful. The Bible talks about sin. It talks about being something that separates you from God. And the Bible also talks about it being the only way you're going to be forgiven of this sin. I mean, shoot, everybody would be separated from God if, wouldn't have a way of getting into heaven if there wasn't a way of wiping out all this sin. Well, he found his answers in those books. And at the end of that day on Sunday, at the end of that service, he got that walker and he walked up there slowly to the front of the church, and he said, "I'm giving my life to God. I believe that God loved me enough to send his son, Christ Jesus, for me. And that only Christ had lived a perfect life and gave that life willingly on the cross to basically take all the blame for us." And the thing is, the good thing is Christ came back to life again and showed he was better than sin or death. Well, my daddy, by reading these books, and I'm sure prayed a bit, he learned to believe this. So, like I said, that set an example for me. A year later, I didn't want my daddy to die, but he did. He died a year later. And I believe truly with all my heart, he's in heaven. As I go through this series telling you the various different things that I've seen through my life, I'll be showing you why. You'll be seeing why I believe that he is in heaven. I believe that there is a heaven, there is a God, there is a hell, there is a way of being saved, of being forgiven for all the wrongs we do. And we do need to be forgiven. But Daddy figured it out. And he set an example for me as he did through his whole life. He led by example. And I am so thankful for that. He could have lived another 20, 30 years and dropped dead of a heart attack and went to his death thinking he don't need God, he don't need nobody. And I believe he would not have been in heaven. But because he had his pride broken by this illness that let him know that we're not the biggest thing in the universe. Mankind isn't. God is. And we need him. So I hope you enjoy the rest of this series. Right now we're in need of things from the world. Money to pay our bills. We sometimes run out of even food money. But God provides, and you're going to see in these series that I'm doing here the things that have happened over the years, that the way God has provided. And I think he provided for my daddy for the things to happen, allowed it to happen to him. Yes, it was terrible. He got sick, but it took something to break the pride, to get his attention, to basically say, hey, I'm here, Mr. Galyon. You need me, So, like I said, I love my father with all my heart. I know I'll see him again someday. And so this is, like I said, it's another chapter in the book of Minor Miracles. Some of these are just testimonies. Some of these are blessings that people helped us out with things. But some of them are downright amazing, some stories. So you wait till you hear them all. You have a blessed day.